I remember my very first ride I did in India was to go to Turahali. They told me there's a good place to go mountain biking. And then when I reached there, it was like, what is it, like 2 kilometers of riding or something? So like, it's a joke. And it took me 50 kilometers go and come back just to see these 2 kilometers. And then I went at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was hot, it was dusty, it was a lot of traffic. Then I saw 2 kilometers of trails where I was like, that was maybe not the best ride I did.
Did you try Awalhalli and stuff though?
Yeah, now I know everything, of course. But this was the very first ride that I did. And at that time, of course, there was no digital stuff, so you have to show what you're doing. So I had a book, like a day calendar book, and then each day I was writing how many intervals I was riding, what I was riding, what kind of activity I was doing, what kind of pulse you have when you're resting, rest pulse.
Yeah, resting heart rate.
So that was important because that can indicate if you're training too much or too little.
Right, it indicates the fatigue.
Yeah, so you can make a curve, which is basically today there's replacements of that for other ways of showing that.
Correct.
But at that time, this was important. So every morning I took a heartbeat resting pulse.
Nowadays, HRV and all that stuff are similar concepts. Yeah. I am Vinky, and this is the Working Athlete Podcast. Here, I talk to working athletes from all walks of life and experts from various sports to provide you with inspiration, training tips, time management, and lifestyle advice. If this is something that interests you, please make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any future episodes. Today's guest, Miron Thomas, was a German pro cyclist in his youth who raced with the likes of Cancellara and Greipel before moving away from pro cycling. Although he gave up cycling racing in the 1990s, he continues to cycle for pleasure. He has been in India on work since 2017 and has been riding with us ever since. In this episode, we talk about Miron's experience as a young pro racing at the UCI level races, what it was like training and living like a pro back in the day compared to what you see now. He also shares his experience of riding and living in India for the last 5 years and what he will be missing most as he moves back home. It was super fun talking to him about his varied experience in cycling. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. This episode is brought to you by The Bike Affair. If you are in search of a one-stop destination that caters to all your cycling needs, our today's sponsor, The Bike Affair, is the perfect place to check out. I have known the founders of The Bike Affair, Krish and Gokul, personally for nearly 15 years now. In fact, my first century ride was with Krish back in 2008. They are both exceptional human beings and entrepreneurs that believe in providing exceptional service to their customers. And it shows. With over 14 years of experience, the Bike Affair has established itself as a trusted source offering honest advice and exceptional service. They are offering a special treat for the listeners of this podcast. You can enjoy a 10% discount on your first order by using the code BikeyVenky on their website. So if you are in Hyderabad, visit their store in Kondapur, or if you are anywhere else in India, shop online by using the link thebikeaffair.com. I will leave the link in the show notes. Now, enjoy the podcast. Welcome to the Working Athlete Podcast, Miron. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thank you very much, Venki. I'm very honored that actually you invite me. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion today.
Awesome. Pleasure is mine. We have been riding together for a while now. And I always, I know a little bit about your background, into racing and stuff, back home as a kid, as an youngster. But you never raced here.
No.
Good for us.
I did only one fun race on the go-kart racetrack. That was really a nice day as well.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of use this opportunity to get to know you a little more better before your stint in India is soon to be ending. So
yes, correct.
Yeah.
Sad but true.
Right. So let us start by talking about your relationship with sports growing up.
So we have in the family a little bit bicycle history. My grandfather has been racing. My father has been racing, and as my father is aware of the challenges that you have when you do that professionally, because it burns a lot of time, he was never pushing me and he never wanted me to race. So when I was very young, at the age of 3, of course, he made sure that I know how to cycle. So I was starting to cycle in the age of 3, and it was the generation of the 80s with BMX. So that is how I started to ride a little bit in the neighborhood. And of course, I always saw my dad's road bike, and he had a nice Italian Masi, and I was always fascinated of the bling and how nice the bicycle is, and when he was riding, how nice it looked. And I had this bicycle, which was BMX. It looks a little bit like a monkey on a stone. And then he asked me when I was very young what kind of sport I wanted to do, and then at that time he just let me try different things except cycling. And then I decided for gymnastics, and this is how I started a sports career. And I was fairly good, yeah, but I was not like in the top of Germany. I was always in the region. I was fairly good, and in South Germany I was okay. And then when I became a teenager, we moved to South Germany for my dad's job, and then that was 1992. And I have backed for a road bike for a long time. So in 1992, I got a road bike, which was an aluminium Alan, and it was built by my dad's mechanic. So when he was racing, that mechanic was still there. And there's a lot of history about that. So my dad has carried the torch for the Olympic Games in 1972.
Wow.
And that photo was, of course, in our house. So, and the torch was also in our house. So I was aware of all the sports heritage. And we had a lot of fun moments, but that was the first time that I actually got a road bike. So it was, at that time, it was a little bit of a mix put together bike that was not too costly. And it had a Shimano 105, the frame shifters, the
Down tube shifters.
down tube shifters. At that time, it was just the beginning of cleats, so it was not with a cleat. It still had the cage, and that was basically my first year of riding. And my dad had also a rule that I am not allowed to ride on the road until I can ride on a free roller within a inch stretch. So he put a marker on the rollers, and if I can ride in this marker, then I can ride on the street. So
Wow.
that was the first rule. And because at that time I was just turned 11, and the road bike can go up, of course, to very much high speeds, and therefore he wanted to make sure that I can ride on a straight line. And that, I think, was one of the key characteristics to make me properly cycle. And then all the rides, of course, after a few months, I could ride on an inch. So that's was then the start of riding road. And then he taught me basically all the tricks and things, how to ride, how to do ride in a proper wind shade, and this is how the whole thing has started for me for road biking. But at that time, he also didn't want me to race. So he always made sure that we had a nice father-son ride out, and he never mentioned anything about road racing or anything like that. So I was fairly okay with the gymnastics. So with age, then in 1993, then I got my first cleats, and we went into the Alps, and there's a Großglockner, one of the major climbs in the Alps, which I did when I was 13. And we just did like fun rides, nothing training or nothing specifically. If I like it, I can ride. If I don't like it, I don't have to ride. And before I came to that stage, as I said, I had first this BMX, and then there was this time where mountain biking was very hip.
Right.
That was just before the 90s started. And I always wanted to have a mountain bike. at that time because you saw it, the friends and everybody. And then Shimano had launched this 18 speed where like everybody thought like you have to have a bazillion gears in order to ride fast. And my dad got me a 3-speed mountain bike. And I was so disappointed that, because I had friends in class in school that had this Shimano 18 speed, and I was always like completely depressed that, I didn't.
You only had 3
and
speed.
then because they were riding then the 26-inch and I had only 20-inch. So 20-inch and 3 speed.
Wheels,
But then my dad told me, it doesn't matter because it's actually you who makes the difference, and it's your legs that makes the difference. And then we had this, in the neighborhood, you understand that actually once I could accelerate properly with a 3-speed, I was way faster than the guys with the 18 speeds because they don't know how to get through all the gears.
Yeah.
So this is also one lesson that I learned, that there's a lot of discussion about material. At the end of the day, it's your legs that make the difference, and your mindset that makes the difference. So that was for me also one lesson. And then in 93, as I said, then I got the first time cleats, and then also I got the cross shifters, which are the bar end. So that they go from the frame upwards. So, and they were also indexed so that you could click through the gears. And that bike I really loved, but of course it was for an 11-year-old, so I was growing slowly out of it. And my dad, he got a brand new cycle in at the same time. And I don't know if you are aware of that, but SRAM was before Sachs, and Sachs and Campagnolo, they had a technical cooperation for the shifters.
Oh, I wasn't aware.
So my dad, he had this, instead of the Campagnolo Ergo Power, he had the Sachs, I forgot what they were called, but they had the exact same group set, branded as Sachs and Campagnolo.
Oh.
And that bike is very similar to what I have built up now here in India as a Souvenir. And I, of course, wanted to have these shifters. And at that time, it was very expensive because it was just latest state-of-the-art technology that came out. So then my dad made sure that I had shifters at the drop bars, but they were not in the brakes. They were at the end of the bar. So that was really great. But of course, then with time, I got really used to it. And when you're sprinting, you're in the drop zone anyway. So you can, with the back of your hand, you can shift down then and accelerate. And then once you are in the last gears, you can use your small finger for the last gears. So that was a great jump ahead. And then in 94, then I got my Ergo Power, because then I grew out of the Alan bike. The frame was extremely small, so it looked like a time trial bike when I was riding the last couple of rides on it. And that bike I still have, what came then with the Ergo Power. And I was very lucky because at that time I wanted always to have a Campagnolo group set. And I got a Campagnolo Chorus on that bike. And that was also the bike then I was racing with. And because the shifters had a long lead time, Campi has made a deal with my dad's mechanic that he got the record Ergo Powers. So I was like the most proud kid on the block with the record Ergo Power, because they were distinctive in design. So you can, even if you don't know the group set, you can look at it and oh, that's the record one. And the rest of the bike you don't see so much. So that was quite interesting. But I was extremely proud of that bike. And then as the guy was who was making the bikes when my dad was racing, he is a mechanic, and so basically every season I had a new color on the bike, and it was really great, and I really loved that bike. And the wheel set I'm still using now, that I got at that time. And then in 96, one of my friends, he started to mountain bike more serious. And then I started also to ride with him. And then there's the company Cube in Germany that makes bicycles. I mean, even today they have road bikes. So, and then we got the opportunity to join their factory team, which was really great. And that was in cooperation. They had like an own distribution network, like their own shops. They were called Multicycle. So they had a Multicycle Cube racing team. And with that, then I started to race, but on the mountain bike side. And only hobby, because my dad didn't want me to race. So this is how I started. But then in the first races, I mean, I was always in the top 10 of the entire group including the old people. I mean, not the old people. I mean, at that time it was old people, but like our age people.
Yeah.
And the U23 and so on. So then everybody got a little bit an understanding. Okay, this person knows what to do. And then there was a club that was close to my home, because in Europe you need to have a club to get the license, UCI license.
Right.
And then you join the club. It's a yearly fee. There's some insurances included, so that if something happens, that will take care of stuff. And that club was like the most successful club in southern Germany.
Right.
And these guys, they were aware of me, and the club manager at that time, he was racing together with my dad, so they already knew each other.
Okay.
And then I still was riding on all these hobby races. And then my dad, when I went to this gymnastics classes, I went by road bike. And then it was like 45-minute ride. So I had a 1.5 hour, and I had 2 times training a week.
Right.
And then the other days I was riding with my dad. So, and then I got more and more and more. And then with my friends and this mountain biking. And what I really enjoyed, and that is also something that I have then experienced here back in India, that the bike shop has made rides on the weekend with the racing team. So that like normal people like you and me, they can join the racing team, and they can have a fun time, and they can learn from the guys that are actually racing. And that was really fun, because at that time, everybody knew that racing team, and there was a very big community that was around it. So that was really nice. And then one day, my dad and this guy, they with this club together, my dad said, okay, now just join the club, and then we will see how you do. And then on the first big race, which was called, there's like Bundesliga, which is like the league, the German league. And the first race of the season, I just won without anything. And
You
then,
won. Yeah.
with that, of course, you got immediately attention of the trainer, because people will come there and check out the youth and the young riders. And this is how it started all. And then I got in this really great team. So the jersey is from my team is still there.
I'm not sure if people will be able to see, but
Yeah,
the background.
and I still fit in that jersey, so I managed to maintain. And then the racing scene started, but that was also then difficult, because in the end of the 90s, with all the doping scandals, it was very difficult to get into professional racing. And I would say only the top 10 really made it out. So, and then I had 2 UCI World Cup races where I was riding together with the elite, which is like Fabian Cancellara was there, Greipel was there. So they're all in the same age group than me. But I was just not good enough to. I mean, I could have maybe joined as a side rider, or to just be there, but I was not interested, because I'm very competitive. I wanted to weather the top or nothing.
Right.
And then in 1999, I just stopped and focused on school, and I said I will never race again.
Oh,
And
wow.
then that is also something that is with this competitiveness, because I don't like to participate in racing when I know that I can be much better if I prepare properly, because I've seen how you can get better with proper training.
Right.
And then since 1999, I finished university. I started to work, but I never stopped riding, and I still do this today. And I had a long phase in between where I only took my mountain bike when I traveled, or when I was working in other countries. I took only the mountain bike, so that I'm flexible on, if it's shitty roads, I go with off-road tires, or there's a good mountain bike area, you can go mountain biking. Or on the other hand, you have a good road, so I just changed my tires. And that I did until I came to India. And then I did the same as I usually did. I came to India, I took my mountain bike. Before I came to India, we had this week of discovery. So there was a specialized
Kingani.
brand store that was
specialized brand store in Infantry Road.
Yeah, in Infantry Road. And on the first trip when we came to India, I just stopped there and I asked them how cycling is, and they gave me some spots what to do and where to ride. And then I came with my mountain bike and had 2 sets of tires, and I think this is also how we have met on my mountain bike.
Yeah.
And that is the mountain bike that I was racing on when I was in the Cube team. So it's actually the Cube team bike. It's just painted, stripped, because at that time it was yellow It was Sit Blue, which was the latest RockShox suspension fork that was coming out. That was in a specific color, so that everybody understands that's a
Right.
top of the line suspension fork. And then we were sponsored by Michelin tires, and they had these green Wild Gripper tires. So it was yellow, green, and blue,
Nice.
and it was really easy to to visualize the team.
Right.
But that was all on hobby level, you can say, not under UCI license. And then with the road bike, I started only on UCI license. And then my dad, we did in order to properly train, because today everybody trains with power. At that time, power meters just started.
Right.
And there's this,
Only SRM was there, I guess.
exactly. So SRM, and the brother of the SRM founder was in that club that I joined. So we had one unit,
nice.
one test unit on one of the bikes, so we could experience this power stuff.
Nice.
And then after this, we trained with Pulse. So then basically you have to regularly do a checkup with the doctor where they check on oxygen levels and lactate and how it is related to the power development. And then you do the step test. And then based on that, you get the pulse levels, and then you train according to that.
Right.
And just today I was speaking to somebody about training, and he said, how this is done. But at that time, of course, the technology was not there that you have today in like very small space. And what we did then was you do train by pulse, but it is like driving a car. With time, you don't look on the speedometer anymore. You know the speed that you're driving because you get the experience. And that's exactly the same with a heartbeat. You get exactly dialed in. Let's say within 5 beats per minute, you can tell where you are.
Right, where you are.
And then in the beginning, you have been very focused on the pulse meter. And then once you get it into your rhythm, then you understand that. And the good thing I would say with training with pulse is, of course, that when your body is tired, the pulse is adjusting. So, and then the training is compensating for the tiredness if you are tired. And but I believe technology has evolved so much, and training methods have been properly analyzed. Like when I was racing, I raced on 19mm tires because everybody believed that's the fastest tire.
Yeah.
And today everybody is racing on maybe 28, 30.
That is.
And now Tour de France, they had even 32mm tires.
Yeah.
And this just because technology was not available. So I had like now I don't know in PSI, but it was 11 bar and 19mm tire.
Right.
And it felt like rock hard. It's like a stone. You're riding on a stone. But you believe that was the fastest because it's true. If you put that on a roller without any road surface interference, that's the fastest tire. But the road is unfortunately not as perfect as a steel drum.
Right.
And then when I came to India, then for me, of course, everything was new, new roads and so on. But from experience, I have seen that wherever I have cycled in the world where I went with my bike, the roads that I pick on the map when I look at the surroundings is exactly the maps that the local people ride. It's just by experience. You get a look and feel for which roads are good and not. And of course, now we have Strava heat maps and all this other stuff. So, even an idiot can find a good way to ride. But at that time, for me, it was always map. Yeah. There was no mobile phone. And I had always a small paper on my bike when I was riding that was just city by city that I was just ticking off that I know where I am. And then if I got lost, I just explained local guy where I am and where I have to go to this next destination. And that was how we were riding.
Nice. So, for in terms of training, when you were racing, say that at UCI level, right? What kind of training were you doing? You mentioned you were training by pulse, as in heart rate. What kind of volumes were you putting in, like for per week and?
So I was riding when I was on the peak of my performance, then I was riding 20,000 kilometers a year.
Right.
And then that was a mixed, that's including the race kilometers. I usually had between 500 and 1,000 race kilometers per year.
Right.
And there is this zone 1, 2, and so on.
Right.
Similarly to that, I had something that has just different names in German, but it's the same setup.
Yeah.
And the goal was to basically move the lactate pulse as far out as possible.
Right.
So that you can ride as much as possible without producing a massive amount of lactate. So that was the main goal of the training. And then, of course, there's sprinting and fun. I mean, something that I learned here in India is, there's Rishabh who has done all these training courses on training. And he was telling me that, Miron, the way that you're riding is basically called lekfart. And I didn't understand that at that time. So then he told me that this is some Scandinavian word that they come up, and then lekfart, I speak Swedish. So then I said, yes, lekfart means translated play, ride.
Right.
And that's exactly how I ride.
Yeah.
I just go out for fun. I don't want to follow any principles. I just want to have fun when I'm riding. And this fun ride, that is also something that when you are training together with a team or something, you do a lot of, I would say, funny stuff.
Right.
And that is also like sprinting to signs on stuff like that. And that is also, I think, if somebody would ask me today of training advice, I would say I cannot do that because I don't know the latest research and technology. But one thing that I can give an advice is have fun, because that's the most important part. If you go on your cycle and you already think like, oh, what a shit, today I have to do this training program or something, just forget about it, because it will not help you and you will not develop further. But having fun is the most important. I think this is also why I have never stopped, because I see it as a fun activity. That is not like, oh, I have to make this many kilometers or I have to ride that many hours. My riding amount per year has changed over the years, depending on the year, depending on the climate conditions, depending on the terrain and so on. But I like to ride in sunshine. So I always say that I'm a sunshine rider because I hate to ride in the rain. So when I had to race, you have no choice. It's basically you train in the rain, you have to ride in the rain, and you have to just deal with that. But when I stopped this racing career, I would call it, I just said I will never ride in the rain again. Until to date, I'm trying to follow that. Of course, when you go out and it starts then it's, you can't do anything about it. But in general, I have this that I don't want to. But I really enjoy riding in the snow. So every year I make sure that I have some snow kilometers that I get. And I really love to be in the snow because bike handling skills are much more demanded. You usually fall once every ride. So that means that you learn also how to fall, because that is also important. Because most of the people are, when they start cycling or when they have cycled a long time, they try to avoid falling, which is logically because nobody wants to get in that. But if you have an opportunity to learn how to fall in a safe environment, which is snow, it's soft, nothing gets scratched on the bike, no problems. It helps you to roll off the bike, or that you don't break your collarbone and these kind of things. And that I would say has helped me, because I never got any serious injury on the bicycle.
Do you ride during your snow kilometers? Do you ride mountain bike?
Yes.
Yeah.
You need to have some profile on the tire, because otherwise it's impossible. But it's really enjoyable. I like it, especially if the snow is deep, because the snow is also like a muffler. So when you ride on the road, you hear the noise of the tires and other stuff. But once it is snowed, it is calm. It's quiet.
Very peaceful.
So you are riding with a bicycle in the snow, and you don't hear anything. You don't hear the tire. So it's just the environment and yourself.
Yeah.
And in our home in Munich, I have a loop that is completely in the wilderness, and that you don't touch any main roads, and that is really great. I really enjoy that. It's freaking cold.
Right.
That's one thing. When I lived in Sweden, I did this also, and that there was like temperatures up to -20. So I managed usually 1 hour ride at that cold temperatures, because then whatever clothes you have, the cold is creeping in.
Yeah.
And it will come. And I had many times where I came home where I couldn't open my hands anymore. So you have your hands like this. You have to put the key here, and you have to open the door like this, because it's just so cold. And I was using plastic bags in the shoes to insulate even further, and I tried everything. But I would say 1 hour at -20 is like, and you breathe also through some cloth, so that you don't have the issue that the cold air goes too deep in. But I really love to be in the snow and the cold, because it's not the whole year, and it's just a special season, and it's very good for bike handling skills. And you can do, once you can do burnouts like a donut you can make.
Right.
So there are all things that you can learn when you have this kind of condition, which is not possible in the summer.
Yeah, I mean, snow riding, I haven't ridden in snow, but I have done snowshoeing and stuff when I was
Yeah.
in Vermont for a bit. Oh, that's so like you said, yeah, snow acts as a muffler or
Mm.
something. It can be so calm. It can be very eerie if you are,
Yeah. And I managed every year since we are in India to
Mm.
go on snow ridings.
Mm.
Even though it is just like 20 kilometers or something, but it's just to have a nice time in the snow.
Nice.
And I have a couple of bikes in Germany that I use there, and that has also helped me to do and to be able to do that. Fortunately enough.
Right.
Because of course not
right.
everybody has the opportunity, as you said.
Yeah.
In India it's a little bit a challenge to ride in the snow.
Yeah, we get to ride in rain and puddles all all year around.
Yeah.
I mean, I seen you being very of water. Or, in one of our rides, I remember you and Kavi just stopped dead in your tracks, and I was like
Yeah.
wondering what
It
happened.
was the underpass in Chikbalapur. I remember that.
Exactly. So there was like maybe an inch of water, and we were like stopping. I was wondering what happened. So you said water, right? We're not riding.
It's like the cat, when they took the paw in the water and say, no, thank you.
So I just rode. You guys rode another extra 5 kilometers and
Yeah.
joined us later.
Later, I remember that.
Yeah, funny. But so coming back to your racing times, right? So how when you were racing with the UCI license, what kind of races were there, and how was the season?
So normally you have, because of the climate conditions, I would say you start like in February, March,
Mhm.
and it goes out to October, November. And usually you have 2 races a week, Saturday, Sunday.
Mhm.
Most of the important races are on a Sunday. So also the training schedule is made that you peak on Sundays.
Right.
And the crit racing is like, I mean, for me, crit racing was like earning money
Mhm.
because you get laps where you get bonuses and schemes. So I only was riding for that. And then Sundays I was riding to win.
Mm.
And I would say the most races I enjoyed was like if you had the juniors, that like the U19 class, they are riding up to 150, 160-kilometer races.
Right.
So when it's like 120, this was like my where I enjoyed it most, when it's rolling terrain.
Mhm.
Uh,
Were
then,
you were you around under 19 at
yeah.
downtown?
Yeah.
Mm.
And then the UCI races, that was like I always say like the Tour de France for the kids, because that's like a multi-stage races, and you can collect points, and then it's basically for the big teams to check out, who's the creme de la creme of the young riders, and who could develop into something. So that is basically why they are generating that. But the professionalism is fairly good. So if we look at our team, we had a team car, we had 2 buses, we had a mechanic, we had a person making food, we had a massage guy. Of course, you can say that world elite in that age range is maybe 160 riders, 200 riders, and they already collect enough sponsor money to be able to afford to get this together. Not every team will be like top notch, but we were lucky because the trainer, or the DS of our team, he was a former Team Telecom pro, and he just retired.
Nice.
And then he did that for 1 year to show that he can train people and keep a team properly running.
Right.
And then he moved back to Team Telecom as one of the sports trainers. It was Mario Kummer. And he was also, when he saw people, he could tell like, okay, this guy can ride properly, straight line. He will develop into something. This person will never do. I mean, they can always see from riding. And we had at that time, of course, there was no digital stuff, so you have to show what you're doing. So I had a book, like a day calendar book, and then each day I was writing how many intervals I was riding, what I was riding, what kind of activity I was doing, what kind of what is that called, the pulse you have when you're resting, rest pulse.
Yeah, resting heart rate.
So that was important because that can indicate if you're training too much or too little.
Right, it indicate the fatigue.
Yeah, so you can make a curve, which is basically, today there's replacements of that for other ways of showing that.
Right.
But at that time, this was important. So every morning I took a heartbeat resting pulse.
Nowadays, HRV and all that stuff
Yeah.
are similar concepts. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, technology has evolved so much so that
Right.
if somebody asked me today, I would say, have fun and try to find somebody who has really educated themselves about this.
Right.
And then it's also different that, you know, as you are also in the 40s,
Right.
same as I am.
Yeah.
And when you are getting older, your body is changing.
Hmm.
Like I'm always explaining now when I'm riding here with the guys, the first hour today is
Yeah.
like almost like hell for me
Right.
until my body gets on speed. You know, when I was racing, it was like the first hour was like I go on the
Switch
bike
on and go.
full throttle, no problem.
Yeah.
Today it takes me like 1 hour, and then after 1.5, and then when I warm up, then you know, it's like you get an old turbo engine, and then once you get up the RPM, and then suddenly like then I can ride, and then even when I come back from the rides, I'm like still on full throttle.
Yeah.
So that I really enjoy when I come home, but when I go out in the morning, it's like hell for me. And then the other thing is also when I came to India, my whole rhythm has completely changed because here everybody rides in the morning.
Right.
In the morning at 6 o'clock, it's way too cold in my home.
Yeah.
So I don't want to ride at 6 o'clock, and I'm not a morning person either. So
Yeah.
I in the first times, I remember my very first ride I did in India was to go to Turahali
Yeah, yeah.
because they told me there's a good place to go mountain biking. And then when I reached there, it was like, what is it, like 2 kilometers of riding or something? So
Yeah.
like it's a joke. And it took me 50 kilometers go and come back just to see these 2 kilometers. And then I went at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right.
So it was hot, it was dusty, it was a lot of traffic, and then I saw 2 kilometers of trails where I was like, you know, that was maybe not the best ride I did.
Did you try Awalhalli and stuff though?
Yeah, now I know everything, of course, but this was the very first ride that I did. And then when this specialized store, they offered rides, they went to Nandi Hill.
Right.
So I remember that I went on one of these 100-kilometer, I think it's a century ride or something they call it.
Correct, yeah.
And that was also, it was fantastic. So I didn't know what the level is here. So I asked them, you know, what speeds do you go? And then they said, yeah, we will have 2 groups. One is 25 average, one is 29. And I said 29, yeah, 29 is okay. That I can manage with a mountain bike, no problem. And then, because of course everybody showed up with a road bike.
Right.
And then when we started, the first 20 minutes, they were going like everybody full throttle. So like, oh my God, you know, if that is continuing for 100 kilometers, I will die. So I think it was like after half an hour, and we just exited Bangalore to go north. Then I think it was like 5 riders left.
Yeah.
And the whole group was completely. So in Europe, if you have a club or you have a store doing, they will make sure that the group is staying together, and they really make 29 if they say 29.
Yeah.
And then when we reached Nandi Hill, I was completely toast. I could barely make it up, and there was I think it was like 4 riders left, and I was the last one that reached the top. And then when we went down, I said, guys, you know, if I don't eat anything now, I will not make it back to Bangalore. So, and they of course they didn't know anything about me. So then I remember that I ate 2 egg omelets, and I drank 3 bottles of Coca-Cola. So I had like full of sugar, and then the egg, and then I went back, and then of course then my body got refueled. Then I pulled everybody back with my mountain bike in, and we reached with 3 people. So it was really funny. I enjoyed that a lot. And then from then onwards, when I rode with the people, then I understood that it's fairly easy, because even if I'm tired, I know all the tricks of how to not push hard and just roll with the people.
Yeah.
And even if I go with fast people and I feel that it's way too fast, I would just suck on their wheel and enjoy the ride. Yeah. So that was the very first ride here in Bangalore. Yeah. And then of course then I got exposed to the different groups, and then I met this guy Arindam. He lived in Vatur, and then with him I got introduced to your group, and then I started to ride this OMR towards Kola.
We'll get there, but you know, we were sidetracked when we were talking about your you know, racing.
Yes, that's true.
So
That's true.
you were keeping a book.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, there and
Yeah. Today
noting
everything is
down the-
digital.
Correct.
So I had always two things on my bike. That was
Mm.
the speedometer,
Mm.
that was with a magnet, collecting the data,
Right.
and then I had the pulse meter. That was
Mhm.
the second display, and this was
Right.
basically a watch that you put up on the handlebar.
Right. It was not integrated.
Correct. And then I
right.
had a belt on. So that
Mhm.
was how I was training. And then, as I said, with time, you get really your body. You learn a lot about how your body is acting with a different pulse. So I could, in the winter time, when I was training always in the winter on a free roller,
Mm.
and again the inch thing,
Right.
and all the intervals that I was riding, I would say after 1 month, 2 month, I was within 5 beats per minute
Right.
without looking at this thing.
Mhm.
So you get it really into your body, and that I always say that people have a hard time to believe or to understand, and it's just, I can only explain it with the speed of the car,
Right.
because everybody who drives a car, they can guess after a certain period of time. They don't need. I mean, they know that they're not driving 100. They know that they're driving 50, but not
Right.
51 or 52.
Right.
So, but within 5, you get it fairly accurate.
So you were sharing the data with your DS and stuff.
Correct,
That's where they kind of look at the data and see if you are in the league of if you can make it. Or something
Yeah,
like
correct.
that. So how and the races you were doing are mainly like Saturday, Sunday. Saturdays are
Correct,
more crits on Sundays
Basically,
are more
you can find a
races.
crit every weekend, Saturday and Sunday.
Mhm.
But it is, I would say the Sunday is more where the big races will be, like around 80 to 120 or more,
Right.
which is more important, because it is when you want to come to a team, like I was fortunate enough to join this team, and you are part of this 6-rider core. They want to identify the talent by looking at them. And if you are only doing crits for fun, then you are not really getting identified, because that's more or less a play.
Yeah.
The crit is for technical stuff, technical riding, to get the feeling how to ride in the peloton.
Yeah.
So that is all. when I see that also here, most of the people are not used to ride really close together. So once you go to Europe and you ride one crit, then you understand that this is here very far away from each other. So you always have somebody on your elbow that, and then you also have to position yourself. It's not just a group ride where you stay in one position with the elbow out. It's you have to go through that also and find your spot. And there's always a movement that people from the outside
keep coming,
and it's continuously moving.
If you are static, or if you are in at the same effort, you will find yourself at the back very soon.
Yes,
right, within minutes.
And because of this rubber band effect, you get dropped like that.
Yeah.
So that is.
I keep telling people here all the time, let's ride, compacto, close together, don't give too much gaps, and don't overlap wheels, and keep
but the overlapping, you have no choice.
Yeah,
that is
that's in the race, peloton stuff. But you have to, at least when you are maintaining a pace line.
Yeah, and then the UCI races I did, that was always stage races up to 5 days. So then you have a you have a time trial, you have a mountain stage, you have a sprinter stage. Some have a crit inbuilt for fun. I mean, just to have fun. And you have support vehicles. There will be some motorcycles who are riding around, giving you the time of the groups that are away, and so on. So it's fairly professional, and it is just the jump to get to a professional contract.
Right.
And again, there it's also that it's a very limited amount of people that will be having access to this because of performance. But once you're in there will be other people watching, and that is, as I said, other, like the big teams, they will have always somebody who's guarding and looking out for new talents that they want to get in the next season in the team as a professional. Right. And if you look at most of the top guys that you see riding today in the big races, the professionals, all of them have come out of that.
Right.
Yeah. So once you are in this and you're identified, it will basically go as a flow.
Right.
And I was like, the best results I had was like maybe position 30 out of this 160. So I'm never really visible.
Right.
And therefore, as you said, just to be a domestic, I'm not that I'm too competitive, saying like I'm always riding behind, so it makes it's no joy for me. And then once you do a few years, because of course your performance is not increasing over the years, it's decreasing. And if you look at the top guys, if they will make their money within 10 years, and that money has to last for the whole year, for the whole life. Yeah. And if you can manage that, then it's great. They will be visible enough. They will get some sponsoring contracts. They will get into teams and be a DS and so on. So that is great. But you have a ton of riders that will just further. They will fall out. Like, I mean, there are people that have been world champion as a junior. They are now bike mechanics. Right. They are still connected to cycling and so on, but it's, everybody has a different ambition, and that was not my ambition. Right. And then that's why I focused then on work. So and have a beautiful hobby. Yeah, true. So when you raced, you mentioned Cancellara and Greipel and these guys. What kind of races do you guys come across? Only in the UCI. Yeah, because you meet only in the big races, because they're coming from different countries, and normally you have only national racing, and there's very few international races, and that is the ones that are really World Cup level UCI. Right. And of course, you have sometimes, if you are close to the border, that people go like from Munich to Austria is close by. So you ride there as a cross border, but you will not have all the guys getting together like in this UCI races, because there it's like the creme de la creme of all the countries. Right. Excellent. So now we come back to India. Yes. So you mentioned about your experience, but the group ride experience. That was great. So which year was this? It was 2017 when I came to India. 2017. So how did you now? It is 2023 that we are talking about, almost 6 years. Yes, correct. So how did you find riding in India, and how did it did you see any change from 2017 to now, and what kind of changes? So when I came to India, I mean, it's like every country I've been to, I identify my routes where I want to ride, and so on. I ask local people where to ride. And usually, cycling is an international sport. You get very quick acquainted to different people. And I did, as usual, just ride like I want to. And I had my mountain bike here with the 2 sets of tires. And then depending on what I was doing, I was exploring the different mountain bike areas, like this Budigere, Abalahad, Hesaragata. And I personally don't like to go by car anywhere. I like to start and stop from my house. So that is always my riding method, anywhere I go in the world. Yeah. And therefore, to go to these mountain bike places, it is quite a ride from Indanagar, where I'm at home. And therefore, I was riding more and more on the road, because that starts easily. And then I had this contact, Arindam, who was living in Vatur, and he connected me to this group where we met also. And then I started riding. And one thing that is fantastic, and what is, I would say, the greatest thing here for the cycling community, the community is very connected. Right. Everybody knows each other. Yeah. So that is something that I really enjoyed. The other thing is that it's easy to reach out to people because of WhatsApp, and you got to know to people. So that is something that is really great. And normally people meet up for riding, which is making it easy to join if you want to. And all of this is then crowned by the weather condition. I think the people that are locally living here, they are not aware of how great they have it, because it's basically a cycling weather 365 days a year. Yeah, absolutely. And just because of that, I ride double as much here than in Europe, because I don't have a winter season. I don't have the rainy autumn or spring season. And yes, people are complaining about the monsoon here, but in reality, it's a joke, because it rains an hour and then it dries up within an hour. So it is always good weather conditions. Almost always in the evenings, not when we ride. Yeah, correct. And then, of course, we are saying, like, we're complaining about the 3 days of rain a year that is here. Right. I mean, of course, there is more days, but in general, it's very, very little. And the weather condition is always perfect. Right. And I had to just overcome my morning issue because I'm not so what I do is when I ride in India, I wake up, I get dressed, and I leave the house within 20 minutes.
Right.
I don't eat anything. I don't drink anything.
Yeah.
And then I had this issue with the bottle cages, which I also hated. I have lost a couple of bottles, and then every bottle I lost, some commercial vehicle was driving over it. So then I said, okay, no, I hate this. I will not do this anymore. And I got this Camelback, and now I look like a tourist with a backpack when I'm riding. So so since then, because many people have asked why I ride
With the
Camelback, it's just because of bad experience. And then you say, okay, now I have a bottle cage that works, and then they make some new speed bumper, and you lose the bottle again. So I have so many bottle cages that I tried out, and it's just a frequency when you go over these speed bumps that have a couple of bumps behind each other,
Right.
and whatever you do, once a year or twice a year, you lose one bottle, and I was just tired of that. So I skipped that, and now I'm riding as a tourist. And the other thing was that when I came to India, I was aware about the air pollution. So that was something that was a concern for me, because I am not used to ride, and I couldn't imagine how it is. So I did some research, and in 2008, I think there was the Beijing Olympics in China.
Right. Yeah.
And there was a lot of international sports people that complained about that the pollution. I mean, they are way worse than here. And I was in the early stages when I was doing this research, I was thinking that I will buy some cool mask that looks like a monster or something funny.
Right.
And then in this research, they did test all kinds of masks from expensive to cheap. And at the end, in this research, the mask that I'm wearing here is the one that it cost like 200 rupees. And it's it's a 3M mask, and that is the mask that was the best in this test. And then I started to ride with it. In the beginning, I was using it to go from my house out of the city, and then in the countryside, it's in any way very good. And then COVID came. And then there was this law that you had to wear a mask outside. And as I'm a foreigner, I didn't want to discuss with anybody, so I kept the mask on. And now since then, I have.
You still ride with mask.
I got used to it, to not take it off and just ride and forget about it. And then when the pandemic started, then there was a lot of discussions about you suffocate and all of this. So then there was another research that was done in the US with a football team wearing mask, not wearing mask, and that was like 3 to 5% of your performance you cut when you have some kind of filtration in front of you, because of the breathing strength that you have to use, and the muscles are differently used and so on. But as a hobby rider, 3 to 5% you don't feel it anyway, so it didn't matter. And so that's how I got used to it. And of course, everybody knows that I'm wearing a mask.
So these are two distinguishing features: mask, the guy with the mask, and the Camelback.
Yeah, correct.
So say from 2017 you've been riding. What but you never raced apart from that one race on this thing. Why?
That's still the same.
Yeah, same.
The same method. I have said I will stop in 99 and I will not race again.
Right.
And if I race again, I will be properly prepared.
Yeah.
So that was what I've said, and I'm standing true to that. And then there's also like, even if you're not the strongest rider, there are many ways to win a race. And if you know a lot of tricks, then it's fairly easy. And the go-kart race is one of these that I know that it's a very tight course.
Right.
And then I was taking it like a fun activity.
Right.
And it was a fun activity. I really enjoyed it. And then unfortunately, I had a different plan. My plan was to actually take this race, and then in the last lap I will just outsprint and then stop at the line and let everybody else pass. And then unfortunately in the last curve, Joel crashed.
Flat and
he crashed. And then I didn't understand that was the last lap. And when I look back, so there's some videos where you see that I'm rolling over the finish line, and I'm just looking back. And then when I was continuing racing, and then when I came back, I said, "Come on, Joel, just get another bike, and then we will continue." And then I understood that it was the last lap. But these kind of fun activities, of course, I am still keen. But then you see that even, as I said, even if you're not the strongest rider, you just have the tricks. And so that is how it's come there.
Yeah, that was the only race that you took part in, which you won, which you didn't know that you won also.
Yeah, so it was not fair and square one. So that was
Yeah, Joel was sprinting out of that last corner, and his tire, I think,
yeah,
was
tires that
just
were-
rolled out of the rim and
yeah,
he crashed.
that was unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, great. So
Yeah.
now, a little bit more about the riding in India.
Mm.
So what kind of what all places did you ride in India, and what are your favorite
So many
routes?
people, of course, know me from riding out of the city.
Yeah.
But the majority of the rides I like to do in the countryside
Hmm.
because riding it's like a Formula One car.
Right.
I can drive 300 on the straight. That's easy peasy. It's just putting the
Right.
foot down, and
Yeah.
you don't have to just keep the steering. So it's the same with riding a bike here.
Yeah.
Most of the people here, you see them on the highway.
Highway.
It's just a straight line, so it's not really challenging.
Hmm.
And therefore, you cannot build up skills if you're riding on a straight line. So for me, the highway and is just to get out of the city quick.
Right.
And then when I ride alone, I don't want to be hit from somebody behind. So I usually manage to ride with somebody else, with some commercial vehicle or some rickshaw or somebody else that is there. And then I ride with them out, go in the countryside, enjoy, and then come back and ride back in the city. So and normally you see only the people when I'm riding into the city. So that is it is one thing. But before I came actually to riding here, as I said, I came with a mountain bike, and I met Rishabh and I met Vivek, and then I got so much more connected to the cycling community here that I was thinking about road bike would be nice to have in India. And then I thought about it, and then because technology had evolved so much from the 1990s until now, 2020s. So then in 2018, I decided that I will build myself a new bike, because all the bikes I built myself, I do all the maintenance myself. That has come with the fact that my dad had the mechanic, and then you want to have it a certain way.
Right.
And most of the mechanics, they don't know the certain way.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own way. But
Yeah.
if you want to have it specific and you ride higher speeds, you want to make sure that everything is 100%. So therefore, I have always built my own bikes after racing, because racing is easy. You have a mechanic, you have a sponsor,
Right.
everything is there. So it's not really a big thing. But afterwards, I built all my bikes. And then I started to look into it. Then, of course, all this aero stuff has come up. So I want to have an aero bike. And when I built my mountain bike for Germany, that was the last bike I built before I came here. It's a lightweight mountain bike. I started with this one by. And I really enjoy that because I can adjust the gearing exactly to what I need, not some marketing figures.
Right.
And then I was just doing research, and then I found that the 3T at that time, they have just launched a bike that was one by aero. So I said, okay, that's the frame that I want to try. And the position that I'm having is basically the position that I'm riding since the 90s. So once I got in my body size that I have now, I can say from 96, 97 onwards, I ride the exact same position. And then on the mountain bike, I have just a different steering and steering angle position than on the road bike.
Yeah.
And then I calculate the distances with the new frame dimensions, and then you know what kind of stem you need, what kind of drop bar you need. I picked all the components to what I need, so that my bike is maybe not your favorite bike, but it's suiting me exactly to my needs. I wanted to have disc brakes because that was new at the time, and because it is one by and 3T is an Italian brand, I wanted to have actually Campagnolo. And Campagnolo for me is I have been racing on it. I know how it works, and it's for me the most beautiful group set. But unfortunately, the last group sets that have come out is not my favorite. And then when I looked at things with the one by, you will always have a dead shifter.
Right.
So then I was thinking to try out digital shifting. And I looked at the 3 brands that offer that, but only Shimano has a real free programmable system where you can, with the computer, you can program all the buttons.
Yeah.
And because you have only 2 shifters and Shimano offers 6 buttons, then with the one by, that was the solution. And that's how I ended up at Shimano with the
Shimano
DI2.
DI2, yeah.
Yeah. But for me, every electronic setup that I've been riding is for me a slow shift.
Yeah.
When you are used to a Campi, like for example the record that I have on the classic bike, and you compare that with digital shifting, it's way faster. I can sprint much faster out of the zero when I accelerate with this than with the DI2, because the if you look, SRAM is the slowest, because they have also
a bit of lag.
They have lag because of the wireless.
Yeah.
And the DI2, they are restricting the speed of shifting that you don't damage the components. Even though you can change the programming of the shifting speed, but they are, I mean, it says very fast, but it's a joke compared to a mechanical direct shift. And the Campi, you can shift all the gears with one button through from top to bottom in one stroke. So that means when I accelerate, you can pop 2 gears at the same time. And until the DI2 does 2 gears at the same time, it's so all the sprints, what I do, I have already shifted in the big gear to get going. Because it's just for me too slow. So that is one deficit on the DI2. But basically, because I met Rishabh then and Vivek, and we have been riding together, and then I got this idea, and so, and then I went back more on riding a road bike, because I haven't done that for, I can say, mid 2005. I did. So for 15 years I didn't ride a road bike, only my mountain bike. And then I got back on the road, and of course then, as I haven't been riding, and then you go from like old technology to like latest technology. I mean, it's just a leapfrog that you do with the speeds that you're going, average speeds that you're going. And in average, it's like 5 kilometers per hour to the mountain bike with the same riding. So it is a drastical change. Then I want to try tubeless, which was very good, because if I look at my flats in the 6 years, I have 2 flats where I could not go home, and the rest was flats that I was able to go home, or it was just not visible because of the liquid in it.
Tubeless took care of it.
Yeah, so that is one thing that I have also now started in Europe to change my tires there to tubeless. That was just one technology that I had to learn because I was not aware of how this works and so on, but I got that done. And then I started to have more and more group rides. And of course, that is one thing, you know, everybody talks about the traffic. Yes, traffic is there, but I really like to play with my bike. The bike is not a sports equipment. It's for me a toy. And I like to jump on sidewalks and go through the cars. And most of the traffic is in Bangalore much slower than in Europe. So I can actually, with my performance, I can actually ride with the traffic. And I just enjoy, you know, at the traffic light to drop the motorcycle riders, because nobody is like doing like a race start at the. So that is, I really enjoy. I enjoy the ride out, and when I come home, even if the traffic is dense, I really enjoy to go through it. It's you get close to the vehicles. It's a little bit like riding in the peloton, because you go through the cars. Sometimes you hit a mirror with the elbow because it's quite close. Sometimes somebody is doing like this with the car and is bumping into you. But I had not had any bad experience. People are very polite. I had, in the pandemic time, we had some occasions where we thought like, this is not really, it feels a bit strange, these people. And then because of the local people just tell me, look, I told this guy that we will go to this village and we just turn around now so that we don't face any issues. And then we had one guy that was trying to discuss with us something, but I'm not a person that likes to stop and argue with somebody. So we just continued riding. And then we were lucky because we passed, when he stopped on the side of the road, we passed him in the blind spot of a vehicle. So he didn't see that we were passing. So we were still standing there and we were gone. So, so I have 99.9% really positive experience. And then one thing that I personally enjoy is that is when you're competitive, is there's a lot of people on the road that when they see you riding, that they're like really like, oh, great job, you know, go faster. You know, that is something that I personally enjoy a lot. We had once, there were 2 truck drivers when I came back from Kola. They couldn't believe that I'm riding with them. So I guess it was the same company. So then I met some other friends. I stopped with them, and then the truck stopped. They wanted to take some selfies with us because they couldn't believe that I was riding with them. So that was really fun. And these kind of occasions you see a lot. Like I see a lot of motorcycle riders that come by and talk a little bit with me, or they want to say like, "Oh, great, you're really fast," and that's it pumps my ego. So that is great, and that is really what I will miss, because here's nobody. There are some funny occasions where people try to tell you that things are dangerous.
Yeah.
Like just the other weekend, I was riding with one of my friends, and then a motorcycle rider came, no helmet, wife on the back, baby under the arm, and they ride next to us and tell us it's dangerous to ride on the highway. And we are wearing our helmets and we are riding on the side of the road. I said, yes, yeah, but I think that you and your family with no helmets on the motorcycle and the baby on the outside is maybe you should consider your safety first before you consider our safety.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but in general we have as I said, I don't have any bad experiences. Of course, there's. I normally say I have normally 2 crashes a year, so that something happens. But all the crashes that I have, that was things that I could outbalance or slow down enough that the impact is not high. I had this stupid taxi driver driving into my front wheel when he cut me. And but I could get off the bike. I landed on my feet. Not even my clothes were broken. The only thing that was broken was my front wheel. So I have crashed 2 rims in India in this 5 years. One was a pothole. That is also something that is hard here, because sometimes when you go, especially on higher speeds, and then a deep pothole comes, it is just ripping everything apart. So.
That's great. And I like the point of riding off the highway. In the last year or so, I've taken to that, the riding in Hesarghatta and even
and it's so beautiful. Asphalt is great, and it's just that you have to dare to explore new things.
Exactly. There is this thing, even when I started back in Hyderabad, in 2008, there used to be these guys, expats who were working in Microsoft, who used to take us out and show our own country roads. So that's because we take everything for granted. We don't we stick to the highways. We we think that off into villages maybe the roads are bad or that or this, we don't want to go there. But there is so much to explore, so many good roads, as you said.
See, now we have Jonas, who is exploring the northwestern part.
Exactly. Now a Swedish guy is showing what all new routes are there around Hesarghatta, right? It is amazing,
And then on top of things, it will train your riding skills.
It's not riding in straight line anymore. You have to take turns and multiple turns.
And if you're alone, that's easy. If you're in a group, it is already starting to be challenging. So that is, I think, something that is helping the people also to improve their riding skill sets.
Exactly. So nowadays I am taking the group rides mostly into the into these country roads because there are so many good roads.
Again, today with technology, most of the guys, they have some computer. You can download the map of somebody else who has been reading there. So even if you don't know the way, you can actually see it. So that's it's a huge advantage. Yeah. And but again, coming back, the general Indian population, they are so positive, nice to ride with, and you get such a positive vibe when you are in the traffic. And then, of course, like if you have a certain skill set, you just jump on the sidewalk. If there's a lot of traffic, you just pass everybody until you come to the traffic light and jump back in. I like to challenge the young kids on their bikes. And then some of them get really surprised that, oh shit, even if I'm full throttle, he's still pulling away. So these are just things that I will definitely miss when I'm in Europe, because there's just not so much people and not so much vehicles available. But coming back, there's always this discussion about this drafting of vehicles. So that is something that I want to elaborate a little bit on. First of all, I don't recommend it everybody. So that is number one. That has something to do with skill set. So when I started in the 92, when I was 11, my dad taught me how to draft the tractor that is going with 30 kilometers an hour. So this is how I started. that you have to put in the proper gear, where you have to sprint up to the speed, and then of course you have to consider that I was very young at that time, so 30 kilometers an hour is like light speed.
Yeah.
And then you learn the things. It's not just blindly driving behind a draft.
Right.
It is, you have to pay attention to all the details. What is it like? How is the road? So when I go, just as an example, the trucks, when I go with trucks, I count the axles. So when the front wheel goes to the pothole, I can count like pop, 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 and then I know when it's coming. And of course, if you go with a very slow vehicle, you're just dingle-dangling. There's no. But if you go to a vehicle that goes, let's say, to the limit of your performance, then you are always under stress, and you have to focus on the road. You have to check when you go on the side. I usually ride on one of the corners. They are always saying like, yeah, but what happens if they brake? Yeah, what happens if you walk over a street and a car drives over you? It's the same. How often does that happen, that the commercial vehicle will hit the brakes to a full stop?
Right.
I have not seen a single one in India.
Yeah.
And now I'm riding since 92 on drafting, and not a single time I have been smashed on the back of a vehicle because they did a full stop brake. So, but you have to gain the experience step by step, and that is, I think, one of the most important. The easiest is you take these small gearless motorcycle. It's a 50cc. They go 55 kilometers an hour. You draft that because you have good visibility, and I would say every let's say ambition trained person will be able to ride at least a short period of time 55 in a draft.
Right.
So they can follow a few kilometers. And that is a way to start learning, because here there's not, the tractors are too slow, and the commercial vehicles are already too fast. And then for me, I would say the fastest that I can do is a bus, these blue Volvo buses. That is like for me the limit, because then I'm gearing out. As I have 4811. And when I was racing, then in Europe, I was riding with the... so there, the trucks will go on these federal roads, and they are allowed to go 60, and they usually go 70, 75, because that's still in the legal pace. But when they pass you with 75, it's of course extremely difficult to get there, because you need to sprint up them. So the roads where I knew it was fairly straight, then and that's the same here on the highway. It's basically a straight. There's you don't have to expect a 90-degree bend. So that is one major thing, that when I ride on the highway and I draft, that you don't have to take a risk, because there's nobody have to make a 90-degree bend and has to slow down. And that's the same how I learned in Europe, because the commercial vehicles that are there, they ride fairly fast. So I know the roads that are straight, and I know where the trucks are going. So then I will go there. And then I check frequently backwards. And when I see somebody coming, then I already speed up to 40, 50. And then I start sprinting when he's just behind me. And then when he has to pass, he will be at 60. So the passing is only 15, 20 kilometers an hour difference. And once he has passed, you go into a full sprint, and then you normally catch it. And and here all the trucks are riding easy speeds. I mean, I can almost, without sprinting, many vehicles I can just in sitting accelerating and get it. But again, you need to know what you're doing. You need to have the skill set. And I would not recommend to start with a commercial vehicle or a bus for that kind of activity. And a motorcycle is always good if you have a friend. You can also learn proper drafting like this.
Motor pacing, yeah.
So that is there. But many funny... I mean, I have not a single negative experience with drafting. Normally, once I'm riding a longer, like let's say the average distance I cover with the drafting is like 5 to 10 kilometers, because then the truck slows down, goes somewhere else, or I go somewhere else. So it's not that you're riding like hours with these people. But if I know, for example, if I go alone home from Kola and I want to go home until the toll station, what is it, like 30 kilometer?
Correct.
Yeah. So then I make sure that I'm riding so that the guy sees me in the mirror. The truck driver, and most of the truck drivers are very professional. They will when they are turning, they are putting on turning signals. They will indicate with the hand what they want to do. They don't slam the brakes. They slowly brake. They show you on the light, the brake lights, that they tap it, that you know that he wants to brake, and they're very friendly. Of course, you always have the one driver that is shit, but in general, they are very professional people, and then it's really enjoyable, because they are also, they have a very monotone work to
Right.
do.
Yeah.
And when they have somebody, especially bicycle rider, most of these people have never seen a bicycle rider that fast.
Right.
So it's for them also some
Entertainment.
and especially if you have a few trucks from the same company, they will then drive together and take videos, and it's just a fun activity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it comes all back to skills, and that is something that you need to learn. And that's why I'm saying my bicycles are not a sports equipment. I see them as a toy.
Right.
And now with my son starting to ride also, I follow basically my dad's footprints. I'm letting him ride if he enjoys it,
Yeah.
and we are doing more of these playful activities like building ramps, driving down sidewalks, and on the weekends we drive through these neighborhoods where the houses have been a little bit more uncoordinated built. They have these small walk paths where the local people know how to walk through the neighborhood.
Right.
So I learned them in Indanagar, and I ride them with him with a mountain bike.
Nice.
And this is a little bit to learn skills because it's very tight spaces, and it's a lot of fun. Jumping sidewalks, you have staircases you can ride, and so on. So it's just a fun activity.
Trails.
Yeah, correct. So I enjoy this a lot, and especially now as Elio is growing up and he is enjoying this as well. So yes, I go with him then around.
Nice. Also, to kind of commemorate your, time here in India, you built a bike frame up here.
Yes.
Made entirely. So for those who are listening to this on video, they can see this in the background. Maybe the lighting is not great, but this is a beautiful looking.
We can put a link into the video when it was built.
Yeah. So this is a beautiful frame that is built by Praveen.
Correct.
Prabhakaran, who is also on the podcast recently. So what what are the components you have on this bike?
So when I was racing, I had Campagnolo Coros, and of course, as a young boy, I was always dreaming of what today is called Super Record was called Campagnolo Record Titanium at that time. But because of money constraints and many things, there was no way that I could afford or get Super Record. So, and then now when I was in India and I got more and more into this bike community here and looking at bikes and so on, I was thinking about doing a project of just building this teenager dream build that I had. And so then I started to investigate a little bit, and I could find these components secondhand. They were, of course, worn out or properly used because it's 25 years old. And then I spoke with my dad about this project, and the Campagnolo components I could source. So I had that already on the site. And I was actually thinking to buy a Shinelli Super Corsa. That was the original project. And then my dad was saying yeah, but if you're in India, maybe there is a way that you can get an Indian bike built.
Right.
And take it as a souvenir home because that will last forever. And then this project started. And then, of course, with the friends and so on, I talked a little bit, to people of where could this be done and so on. And then Praveen came up. And when I had the first discussion, then I told Praveen, I'm a very simple customer. I know exactly what I want. And I know all the measurements.
Right.
I know everything what needs to be done. But the only thing is that I'm very picky. So that will be the part where I'm not that good of a customer. And then we came very well along. I explained exactly what I wanted to have. He realized all the different details that I wanted to have perfectly. Like I wanted to have an Indian flag on it, like the Italian frames have an Italian flag on it. I wanted to have a made in India on it, that people see that, its quality can come from India. The color scheme I had in my head with the chromed... what are they called? The chromed...
What are those joints, right?
Yeah, correct. Now I am not getting the word.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The lugs.
Yeah. The chrome
and
lugs.
Then when Praveen ordered the material to build the frame set, and that is now the biggest joke for this whole bike build, he showed me the material when it arrived here. And it comes from the same supplier that supplies to the Shinelli Super Corsa. So I basically got Indian Souvenir exactly with the material that is built. So it's a Columbus SL tubing, and the lugs are coming from the same company then that's just supplying to Shinali. And we found it out because the button bracket, when I saw the button bracket, so it is exactly like the Shinali, and then I looked at the other stuff and then I thought, okay, great.
Yeah.
So that is how it has come. And then I wanted to share that story also to my friends in Europe. And I made this bike build video where I put, so I had done all the assembly at home, a test assembly that everything works, what I have put together. And then we put all the components together. We went to Velo Studio, who helped me out on that. And then we made a nice video of putting this bike together. And it's, for me, it's just the first rides. It reminded me so much to my racing time, because at that time a lot of chrome was there. My fork was aluminium polished fork, and then you have this bling in the sun and so on. So that is what I'm missing a little bit on the new bicycles, because everything is black.
Right.
So
the carbon ones.
Yeah. And it is just such a joy to ride on that bike. Of course, it's not the technology of today. You feel that. I mean, it is more stiff. It is not as comfortable and things like that. Even though steel frame and so on, there's a lot of discussions about it. But reality is, if you have a very well-built carbon frame, then you have a much more comfortable ride, especially also with the wider tires. And it's just technology that has evolved.
Yeah.
But from a beauty contest, it's that bike. It's still a dream bike to see this bling, even though everything, all the components are now 25 years old. I mean, 1998, so it is old, but it works. It all is. I rebuilt everything from scratch, so it all works perfectly fine. There's no performance or shifting thing. And as I said, the shifting speed is still way faster than the M2.
And the wheels that you have on this bike are the same wheels you raced with.
Yeah, correct. So I had this Aero 40 millimeter aluminium wheel set that I was racing on, 16 spokes.
Nice.
It's an Italian company, GPM, and they are for me just the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful wheels. And I took them from the attic of my aunt. There was leakage of oil, so I thought that the bearings are toast. But then when I cleaned everything up and re-greased a little bit, is like brand new. It's amazing.
Amazing.
After all these years. And then unfortunately, Indian road conditions on one of the rides, I went into a pothole. It bent the rim. So that is... I could bend it back, but it's you can see it. That is something that I'm really annoyed about that happened.
Yeah. Amazing. So this has been super fun.
I enjoyed it a lot. And as I said, I mean, I could have never imagined that India will bring me back with my friends here back to road cycling that much that I did now here. I will miss the community. I will miss the road. I will miss the traffic. I will miss the racing in the traffic conditions. That is something that is there, but it's not a goodbye. It's a see you soon.
Yeah, it's see you soon. Yeah, definitely. I'm sure you will come join us for rides here when you are here. We are looking forward to it.
I think we will do a farewell ride.
Yeah, definitely. We have to.
We will make an announcement. Have a nice ride on the beautiful roads that we have around Bangalore.
Yeah, we have to. Yeah. After so many years of riding together and all.
And I hope that my future life will give me another opportunity to come back. I would like to come back and work here. It has been a fantastic time for the family and myself. It's just that right now it doesn't fit with the job environment to stay. That is the bugger. But we have at least a view that maybe sometime in the future we will get another opportunity to come back.
Yeah, definitely. You're most welcome, and see you soon.
Yeah, I hope it is before I use side stands. I still want to ride a two-wheeled bicycle, not a four-wheeled bicycle with the side stands.
Right. Yeah. And thanks for taking the time and sharing your experience with the working.
And also thank you, Venki, for making sure that the biking community stays intact and we have proper racing in Bangalore and you get everybody together. I think you're one of the driving persons here to get bicycle riding attractive, not only today, but also for the future.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words.
That was my conversation with Miron. I hope you enjoyed that. If you are enjoying these podcasts and are finding them useful, please consider supporting the podcast by subscribing to it on YouTube as well as on your favorite podcasting app. It really helps. Also, supporting the sponsors of the podcast is a great way to support the podcast itself. Thanks again for your continuous support. See you next week with another guest.